the biggest and most crucial important factor is not the amount of money you start with, it's the learning, the education side.
If you're finding value in what you're watching, consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on the bell notification. Oh, and don't forget to drop a comment. I love hearing your thoughts and ideas. By the way, we have got a ton of other videos waiting for you. And if you are ready to level up your mindset, come hang out with us in our private Facebook group called Mindset for Business Success. Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Shahid Durrani. Today we have with us Rizwan Memon, the founder and president of Riz International. With over 17 years of experience in trading, Rizwan has achieved over 10.5 million in verified trading profits. He's passionate about helping people take control of their financial future through clear, actionable education. Welcome to our show, Rizwan.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Can you share what principles you learned earlier in your life that were key in the success of your business as a trader?
Yeah, so trading is a very different niche, of course, but there's a lot of parallels to it. I would say parallels to it in business. Of course, I have my own business, but of course, from the trading side, we bring those together, my trading experience and the educational business together. So for me, it's been a long journey. I started, like you said, 17, now 18 years at the time that we're meeting now. It's just 18 years now doing this. But of course, I started the business side of things back in 2012. Just very small, just dabbling here and there because I had already had quite a few good experiences in the markets. Obviously, things worked out. I started, 18 years ago, which is smack dab 2008. So it was an extraordinary time to start. Obviously, young. I was just getting started, small amount of money. But yeah, it was an extraordinary start. I just ultimately had to, because this was so new, different when I first got on Instagram and I created my account, my business Riz International Instagram page. It was, I believe, 2015 or something. And at that point, it was like, I don't know what I was doing. It was just like trading when I first started, completely new, just trial and error and persistence. I guess that really obviously played a big factor, just staying persistent and just sticking with it kind of eventually led me to a point where you kind of figure out what works, what doesn't. And again, same thing with both trading and business. And I would say even with life, you have to kind of just give it a go. And, I used to think growing up as a kid, if I was, 15, 20 years old, let's say, and someone was 40, 45, 50, and I'm like, oh, they must have everything together. They must know everything. You quickly realize as you get older that, we're all kind of just learning as we go. Right. And I think that's the beauty of life.
No, I agree 100%. And not to take life too serious. That's where we get hung up on having it a specific way. We want the outcome in this direction. That's it. We get so passionate, so incredibly infused with an idea that if it goes to left or right, any part of our life, we start feeling that frustration. But honestly, what control do we really have? You know what I mean? We try to control things that we can't control. And that's why it's so important to go within. And you're kind of touching upon mindset. That's what it's all about. When you have that foundation, you can handle life so much more easier because now you're just taking every moment as it comes compared to someone that you're trying to be in a forceful attitude towards life. And you're trying to shift things by making things happen. And nothing wrong with making things happen. It's just, it does a number on your health. But when you have that shining star that you want to go after, your North Star, don't mind if things kind of move here and there for you to get there, because that's just how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about, I think there's a certain type of, I don't know, it's a character trait or like a personality trait that you can cultivate, you can obviously develop. No one's born with it, I think, but there are people that are more predisposed to the entrepreneurial business risk-taking side, right? And of course, there's people that are completely risk averse, and that's fine. But you can kind of dial it in to who you are. And yeah, I wasn't, born with the ideology that you have to become a trader or you have to have your own business. No, like you know, for me, it was always something that's fascinating. I always liked finance. I always liked these things, and you have to kind of explore. And you're right. There's things that I thought when I was 15, 16 years old, that when I started trading, I thought I'd be doing something completely different had you asked me at 16. And then when you asked me at 20, I thought I'd be doing something different. I didn't think I'd be here or at this level at this point. And I guess it goes both ways. Some people have this, this built up fantasy, and it, sometimes it's okay to have these lofty goals, and like they say, aim for the stars and you might end up on the moon, right? So even if you don't make it there, so there's beauty in giving it a shot and being flexible. And I think it has a lot to do with how and the things we go through in life. Some of us are more, let's just say, geared towards the uncertainty and the risks and some of the stress, of course, even that comes with it, especially in my line of work. The business side is one thing, but then when it comes to trading, sometimes I don't wish it on anyone. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So many people think that building wealth through this avenue requires a lot of upfront capital. What strategies would you recommend for those with, say, limited resources that could start their wealth, grow
Yeah,
their
I
wealth? I mean,
I get people. That's a great question. I get people from all facets of life, all different demographics, different countries, even, and they have different financial situations, right? I never say someone you don't need to have, hundreds of thousands. Absolutely not to get started. Now, the flip side is if someone comes to me and says, Riz, I have $500 to my name, or I'm in debt, or, I have rent is due and I don't have any savings. Well, then just because I have to give them the honest truth, I would, just based on a conscious level, like I can't tell them, okay, that's a good idea. But if someone has a few thousand, could be 3, 4,000. When I first started, I started with like 5,000. And that was a large sum of money to me as a young kid, right? After saving and working, and it could have gone any way. I know when I started in 2008, it did go down. I was losing money because I just had the foresight and maybe some luck to be able to actually hold on right during that time. But people come to me with different perspective, different life scenarios, and ultimately the biggest and most crucial important factor is not the amount of money you start with, it's the learning, the education side. There's people that I've spoken to, they're doctors, they're surgeons, and they have the capital, they have the money, they're maybe older, middle-aged, and they go in with large sums of capital, but they don't have the education, they don't have the guidance. It doesn't end well. And maybe they find me online, they hear about me, they are referred to me after the fact, and then they come to me saying, look, this is my situation. I lost, a few 100,000. And to them, it's like it sucks. Obviously, it's not, fun or nice, but to someone else, that's unfathomable, right? Um, because that could be their entire net worth for someone else. So it's all perspective and relative, but ultimately I've seen it whether someone is starting with a few hundred grand, 5 grand, 2 grand. The reality is you have to learn first. Otherwise, you're really going out there like it's like going skydiving without knowing where the parachute latches. And then more so where the secondary one is, because sometimes the first parachute pull doesn't release. So
mm,
I tell people you wouldn't go out skydiving for your first time without an instructor, without knowing where the parachute latches and the backup, would you? Well, then why do that with your own money? Right. So
mm,
it's something that I'm very, very strict on is learning first. And yeah, I don't mind people that start, dabbling with small amounts, but the position sizing, meaning how much you risk, how much you put in, is key because people make a little bit of money early on, whether it's luck or whatever, and then they're in for a ride, so to speak, and usually it doesn't end well.
mm. A lot of people may even just go to YouTube and consume videos to get the knowledge. Could be devastating for people as well, getting the wrong information, the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Because really, when you're going after your goal, you just need the proper direction. We're human beings. We're fantastic, phenomenal creatures. We're able to create things, but without direction, we can mess things up as well. So that's why it's important to go to people that have the results. They have a system that you can follow, step-by-step process. And I assume that's what you have. Now, an entrepreneur, might has a lot of options for multiple sources of income. Why should they, not that you want to, convince someone, I'm not saying in that sense, but what kind of education you could provide to someone that's listening or watching and hearing what you're saying, pick your solution to grow wealth compared to the many other options that are available.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of people in business, whether they're real estate, they have their own business, they have their own side hustle, whatever the case is. We deal with all sorts of people and I welcome all. But really, one of the biggest reasons to invest and trade in the financial markets, especially the way I do it. So the way I do it and teach my students, my philosophy that I've honed and structured over, like I said, over 18 years, it's essential to be able to do it in such a way that you have your own business or your career. Like I said, there's people that could have demanding careers. There's those that are in, working at large firms. There's those that have their own businesses. There's others in medical field. All right. So the way I teach people to do it is you can do this alongside something else. And you don't need to sit, the contrary to belief, people think, oh, you're a trader. So you have to sit in front of the screen. You got like 15 different screens and just seeing prices go up and down and lines move up and down for 8-9 hours a day. No, you don't need to do that. That's just one way. And that's a way that actually might look flashy or you might see very often on social media, but that's actually not the reality or the most profitable or lucrative way to actually invest and use your money. The way I teach it is a balance between doing what you do, whether it's your business, your craft, and then doing this alongside it. And that's the perfect harmony. That's the perfect blend because it allows you to not be so focused on this and this only that it starts eroding at your mindset, your mental health. Because this can be, again, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It can be stressful, very stressful. It can be a lot, especially early on, because it can be tremendous. It's like learning, rocket science initially, because people are like, what is this? Like, yeah, we know this is money and I'm putting money in this stock, but like, this is like a whole different world. And it is. And you have to be mindful of that. You have to be open to learning. The worst is when people, hubris, they get full of themselves, they get confident after a couple of trades and then they start working against themselves. But ultimately, the best way to do it, the way I do it, and, I tell people the reality that, look, learn to do what's called swing trading, meaning you don't need to sit in front of the computer all day. You don't need to try and day trade and all that kind of stuff. The philosophy, the mindset, the strategies I teach, they've proven the test of time. I'm very fortunate. Obviously, I've done well for myself. I've shown, in fact, I've gone as far as to show my account numbers, which isn't the most good thing of my brokerage accounts because of, from a security standpoint, it's not very good. But I do it because so that people can see, look, this is the same account. Look, he's grown this account from, 100K to 500 to 1. And then, he's taken it capital out. So I diversify as well, right? So even though this is my specialty, I specialize in financial markets, even I know that you should diversify, right? So it's something that people can do alongside other things, and they should. If someone's a real estate investor or someone is a business owner, is a teacher, is a doctor, whatever the case is, it's important to have multiple methods of income or sources of growing your wealth.
Source. Because, so Rizwan, what about but the education part, what you teach, that also requires a big commitment. An entrepreneur may not have the time to consume and learn everything.
But that's the thing. The beauty of it is the way I structured it is a 26-hour curriculum. That's the thing. So when you mentioned YouTube, you made a great point. That's it. 26 hours, you can learn the ins and outs.
So 2 or 3 weekends, full-time weekends, you can get it done.
Usually I say people pace themselves, maybe repeat certain sections, right? A lot of people tell me they go through the masterclass, which is my course, and the training, they go through it every year. It's like a yearly thing for them because what they find is it refreshes them. Maybe they find little nuggets, things that they might have glanced over. And it just makes more sense the second, third time around because you have that experience now, right? So ultimately the learning side, the actual foundational learning side, 26 hours, I've compressed it,
and
but made it.
Is the process long-term financial wealth gain, or can you make money on a weekly basis?
You can do it the way I teach it. There's multiple unique strategies that I teach using stocks and options. So again, it's fascinating and it's in depth, but the way I teach it is you can buy stocks and companies that you love, like and obviously there's analysis and there's strategy behind it. But you can also make money weekly and bi-weekly with your capital using options. The way I teach it is you can generate an income on your capital, and it doesn't require micromanaging. It doesn't require you to sit there in front of a screen or your phone looking at it all day, right? We have people that glance at their accounts and their brokerages, whether it's on the computer or on their phone, maybe a few times a day. And then maybe based on that, they make a decision or a move, and that's it. You continue on with your life. Obviously, you manage your risk, you know kind of what you're doing. But that's why you need to have the foundations. You need to have the understanding. If someone's just going to go there and buy something blindly because they saw a headline on the news or a headline on social media or someone randomly mentioning something, well, then you're at the mercy of whatever happens. But when you have the understanding of the concepts, the strategies, the methods, and you have that practice and guidance, and of course with some experience and seat time, you then realize like, whoa, this is very different to what I thought it would be. And it's like, we always think when we look at someone, whether it's I don't know, it could be an astronaut or something, you may have a perception of how that line of work is, but the reality could be very different. We see astronauts floating in space, but the reality could be vigorous months and months and months, even years of training, right? We don't see that, right? We don't see that, okay, in order to run a business, it's not 9 to 5. What about all the other hours that you're working on your business? You might be closed. You might have a brick and mortar store, maybe it's a restaurant, whatever. But there's things that go on besides that you may not see. And the reality is, this trading is the same way. You can't just come in and just say, okay, I want to make a lot of money really fast. And usually the people that have done that don't keep it. There's always those outlier situations, but
so
from what I've seen, it's
what is the success rate of your students? Do you have those stats?
So I don't have a hard percentage, but generally speaking, I would say 7 out of 10 people end up being profitable traders. Yeah. So that's the beauty of it, because people come in thinking they got a day trade. Day trading, meaning trading very short time frame. You're trading against algorithms mostly. You're trading against large financial firms, high frequency trading firms. The average person who's trading on hand with their mouse and trying to press button, buy, sell, is not going to be able to keep up with computers and algorithms that are trading in nanoseconds. Okay. And that's the reality. Can you day trade and make money?
Do you use those as well? Artificial intelligence?
I don't use algorithmic trading. That's not my gig. That's not my style. Those are for high frequency trading firms. And those are firms that are moving billions of dollars in different trades and markets, right? They're essentially taking 0.01% spread between two transactions. And in order to make that be worthwhile, you have to do billions of dollars worth of transactions in any given day. So those are large firms we're talking that are moving that kind of money back and forth.
What financial habits or systems do you believe are critical for long-term wealth growth?
Yeah, of course, knowing the numbers. I find it quite fascinating when I talk to people about the numbers, whether it's their business, whether it's their trading, whether it's their personal finances. A lot of people, I think, they don't pay attention to the core numbers. They know that, okay, I have my business. Oh, it's going well or it's not going well. Oh, our costs are up. But what's the bottom line? Have you really looked at how you're operating a business? I've seen people that join the masterclass, and because I go into not basics, but a decent overview of financial, like fundamental analysis. So looking at understanding basics of, a balance sheet, an income statement, and so on and so forth. People are like, I incorporated this in my own business, and I realized, oh my God, like our costs are too high relative to, our revenue. And people learn these things, and I'm like, okay, that's fantastic. That's amazing. But ultimately it comes down to the numbers. So many people neglect the minute details. And I don't want to say you have to get microscopic, but here's a stat for you. A lot of people, that are working, they have a salary or an hourly wage, and you ask them how much they make. and they'll have a rough idea. Okay, maybe they make 50K, 80K a year, but how many can tell you how much right off the bat, how much that ends up being after tax? They'll have a rough number, right? But then you
Mm.
ask them, okay, well, the amount that's going to tax, okay, you know how much is getting taken off on taxes. Okay, well then, what's your marginal tax rate? And I know tax law can be, it's in a way it's relatively simple, but it gets very complex the further in you go. But generally speaking, most people have no idea what tax rate they fall into, what the marginal tax rate is. They have no idea how taxes work even. A lot of people ask me, Riz, you took out $1 million out of your trading account, so you're going to pay taxes on it now, right? That you took it out of your account. I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with whether I take it out of the account or not. I pay taxes on realized capital gains, meaning at the end of the year, if I had a net positive gain, I'm paying taxes on it. I can keep it in that account for the next 50 years. I still pay taxes. I wish it was the case where if I removed it, then I pay taxes. No, a lot of people
Mm.
do not have the understanding. And I get it, because how would
Mm.
you? This is not something you're taught in school. No one's really talking about this on
Mm.
social media or YouTube. And the people that are, they have a bias or a slant, or it's outright misinformation. So when you talk about, what people should be doing with their money, well, they should be aware. They should be, first and foremost, have a baseline. Where are you in your financial picture? So for me, you know, even with all this, I've done well, so on and so forth. I run a very tight ship, meaning I know what my outflow is versus my inflow, as an entrepreneur, but especially as a trader, right? What's my net P&L, my profit and loss? These are things I've been doing from a very young age. So I apply that to my business, but I apply that to my personal life. So I know what my monthly expenses are. I live a very simple, lean life. So like, I don't have many overhead high expenses. So I know what that is relative to what I'm making. Right. And as a result, these are things that allow me to see where I am in my financial goals, right? For whatever other people's goals are. Not everyone needs to have
Mm.
tens of millions of dollars in wealth to live the life they want. It's all personal, and
So,
ultimately you have to be aware and just minor little tweaks. So I started, not too long ago, because I realized a lot of people want to trade, but in order to get to that level, you have to first make sure you have the basics of your finances there. Like, the last thing someone should be using is trading and investing in the financial markets that has some risk involved when they can't even afford to pay their bills, right? So we need to optimize and figure things out. So I actually started recently helping people and talking to people and guiding them on their personal finances, like tweaking things, giving them some understanding. Like, whoa, you have a car payment. You're paying too much for this car payment. You're making 50K a year before taxes, but then you got this car that's actually taking up, 30, 40% of your biweekly net income from your job just into a car loan, a car note. Like, why? You're destroying your own wealth without you knowing it, and it has four wheels and a steering wheel.
great advice, great information. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it's going to provide some clarity. Sometimes we're in it, we don't realize it until someone points it out. You mentioned that you invested the 5,000. Do you remember how you dealt with the fear of losing that money at that time? Because that was big money for you. You also were or investing pretty much at the time, I believe, all of your wealth. It wasn't a additional source of income. If I'm correct me if
Yeah, I
I'm
was
wrong.
young.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
how
was,
did you deal with the fear?
yeah. So for me, I knew one thing I knew about the financial market, especially starting in 2008. I started, in the first quarter of there were some things going on and people were like uncertain. And I was a kid. So I'm like, okay, this is a lot of money for me. This is like, you know, a lot of work. And for me, I just looked at it as how much work I did, not only as a dollar amount, but how much work went into making that money. And I'm like, okay, I'm putting this in. What if I lose it all? So my thought process was, I'm going to put in some solid companies that I know that I like. Okay. They eventually went lower, but my thought process was, I'm going to put it in there. And if worst case, I'm not going to, just get scared out or close. I'm going to hold on to them, because I don't think Apple or Microsoft or Google or Johnson and Johnson are going to go anywhere, right? They might go down, but I knew that, okay, they're not going bankrupt, right? So that's what I did. I had that fear, but again, just based on that whether you want to call it luck or just this basic concept of knowing that what goes down, especially if it's a solid company, and so long as there isn't some crazy scandal or something, usually you got to ride out the storm. And I'm lucky I did that with these solid companies and not like a penny stock, garbage, nonsense stocks. I invested and bought and held great companies. Obviously, they went lower,
Mhm.
and I'm glad I didn't sell or get scared. And how did
So
I deal with that fear?
Mhm.
Well, it's curiosity for me was the main thing. I was curious, so I knew that I could lose it. I went in knowing I could lose it, but I'm like, I'm 16. Yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of hours slogged into making this, but I'm like, I'm curious, and I still want to do this. I still want to try this, and I think curiosity just superseded everything. Obviously there was fear
Mhm.
involved. I didn't know what I was doing in a way, right? It just happened to be that I started at that time where, again, so many things imploded, so many things happened. It was a landmark year.
Mhm.
And for better or worse, it was an extraordinary time to get started and learn and trial by fire,
Mhm.
really.
So Rizwan, would you guys also provide recommendations to what to invest in?
So we don't, the word recommendations, we don't provide advice or recommendations, but what we do is I provide access to what I'm trading in real time.
What
So
you're trading, what
yeah,
you're investing in
exactly.
at that
People will
time.
get to
That's good.
see, yeah,
Yeah.
people will get to see in real time what I enter, when I exit, what I'm doing. And with that, people follow,
Do a lot of them just follow that?
they follow it. They use that as a way of idea generation, right? We have some institutional investors from the States, some small funds, some big funds, some people in finance that are part of the community, and they use it as an idea generation. They use it as a way to kind of see what I'm doing to maybe acknowledge their own thesis,
Okay.
right? So there's many
Okay.
ways you can go about
And
it. I never tell people that I'm buying this,
good.
so you buy this. No, that's
No, got
not
it.
an ideal
That's
ideal
good.
way
That's
to go about
excellent.
it. Yeah, I always tell
No,
people,
that's excellent.
yeah, because like my risk tolerance is different, and we see that often. My
Yeah.
ability to hold a stock is very different to someone else who might be
Hmm.
new, a year in or 2 years in, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
relatively
But they use it as education, right?
yeah, you
So
can learn by doing, right? So with the masterclass
yeah.
and the community, people have gone on to change their lives. Like I mean, I don't post this too much, but people message me all the time, and they're like, "Okay, Rich, like this changed my life. Like this changed my life for the better. Like I was able to buy this house. I was able to leave my job. I was able to retire my wife. I was able to
Good. Excellent.
like these are real life stories, and
Awesome.
I've been hearing these stories for so long. Like I love it. I absolutely love it. I love hearing the
Yeah.
positive.
Awesome.
I love when seeing our members and our students make money more than
Yeah.
I like making money. I love making money, but it doesn't hit as well anymore. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one
No,
of the
no. It's
reasons I
the
keep doing
feeling,
this.
right?
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah. All right.
there's only so much you can do because
Got it.
I guess maybe I'm jaded, but I do like hearing the wins and seeing our students and what they're doing and the positive
I
impact.
love it. That's great, Rizwan. I appreciate your time today for coming on our show, sharing your wisdom and sharing this opportunity.
Pleasure.
There were some more questions I wanted to ask as well, but we have our limit 20
Sure.
to 30-minute episodes.
Yep.
And that's what people enjoy. So definitely what you're providing here is a solution for people to create wealth, which is needed so much out there, especially entrepreneurs when we're looking for adding sources of
Yep.
income. And you clarified the idea of the 26-hour masterclass that can get someone started with $5,000 minimum
Yep.
and get the ball rolling, learn from what you're doing. Your transparent open book policy is going to help them. I'm also going to definitely look into it as well.
Yep.
And again, keep in touch.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'm always there. In fact, people are shocked. They're like, Riz, I sent an email. You replied right away. It's like 12 a.m. Riz, I sent you a message on Instagram. It's like 4 a.m. I'm like, yep.
Love it.
I live and eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So no, absolutely. You and your
Good.
community, everyone is welcome. Any questions, anytime, feel free to reach out. I'm always there.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take care.
filling in. Click here.